I always thought my life was stable, predictable, safe. A perfect marriage, a perfect home, a perfectly controlled world. But all of it collapsed the night I opened an email I wasn't supposed to see. It looked harmless, just a notification buried between bills and newsletters. But the moment I clicked it, my hands went cold. It wasn't spam. It wasn't a mistake. It was a hotel reservation, 2 names, and one of them was my husband's. But the other name, I froze when I saw it. It was someone far too close to me. My pulse hammered against my ears. For a moment, I genuinely thought I might faint. The room felt small, the walls closing in, the screen suddenly too bright. That email didn't just confirm an affair. It exposed a double life one he had been building right under my nose. And in that moment, a horrifying truth hit me. The man I slept next to wasn't the man I married. He hadn't just cheated. He had lied for years, quietly, carefully, confidently, while smiling at me across dinner tables, kissing me goodbye every morning, and pretending to be the perfect husband. David had stolen more than just my trust. He had stolen my sense of safety, my sanity, my entire reality. People always say, you know your partner better than anyone. But that night, staring at the screen, I realized something brutal. I didn't know him at all. We had been married for 8 years. 8 years of inside jokes, late night talks, weekend trips, silly arguments that ended in laughter. He was charming, responsible, admired by everyone, including my own family. And yet, looking back now, the cracks were always there. Those late nights at the office, the whispered calls he'd quickly end when I entered the room, the sudden change in cologne. The nights he returned home, smelling like a place he shouldn't have been, I ignored all of it. Because that's what trust does. It blinds you until the truth slaps you awake. Even my parents and siblings. Now that I think about it, their whispers, their exchanged looks, their awkward smiles when David walked into the room. They knew something, or at least they suspected it. And the worst part, someone in my family was involved. But I didn't know that then? Not yet. All I knew was this. The email wasn't the betrayal. It was only the beginning. The real monster was hiding much closer. I remember the exact moment everything truly collapsed. Like the world had paused just long enough for me to understand the truth. David had stepped into the shower, leaving his laptop open on the table. Normally, I respected his privacy, but that night, something pulled me toward the screen. A whisper, a warning, a voice I had ignored for too long. One click, one inbox, one thread of messages that changed everything. A woman's name I didn't recognize, a tone far too intimate, and then the words that hollowed my chest. I miss you. Last night was perfect. When can I see you again? It felt like the ground shifted beneath me. My first instinct was disbelief. Maybe I misread it. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But the deeper I scrolled, the clearer it became. This wasn't just an affair. This was a relationship, a parallel life, one he had carefully built while pretending to cherish me. Suddenly, the late-night meetings made sense. The business trips, the distant look in his eyes when he thought I wasn't watching, all the moments I excused because I trusted him. All of them snapped into place, like a puzzle revealing a monster I never saw coming. Still, even with my heart splintering, I didn't confront him. Not yet. The old version of me, the emotional, trusting, reactive version, eyed the moment I read that email. Another version replaced her. A quieter one. Sharper. Colder. If I made a single wrong move, he would destroy everything I had left. I had to stay calm and think, because the betrayal wasn't just personal, it was strategic. David controlled most of our finances. Joint accounts he quietly transferred. Investments he hid behind shell companies. A property portfolio he always insisted was too complicated for me to understand. And suddenly, I understood why. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was preparing to replace me. That night, I sat alone in the dim light of our living room, staring out at the city. Cars passed below, lives moving forward, unaware that mine had been detonated from the inside. A storm of emotions, churn, anger, heartbreak, humiliation. But beneath all of it, something else sparked. Resolve. the same intelligence he once praised me for, the same attention to detail he once admired, the same strategic thinking he once leaned on. Now they were going to save me. They were going to destroy him. He thought he could break me quietly, take everything, walk away clean. But he forgot one thing. I am not the woman he thinks I am anymore. So I began mapping out the first steps, slowly, secretly, methodically. Every conversation we had, every document I'd ever signed, every inconsistency I remembered, every financial detail that suddenly made sense. He built an empire, but he built it with me, which means I know exactly where the cracks are. And for the first time since everything shattered, I felt something like power returning to me, a dangerous calm. This wasn't just the beginning of revenge. It was the beginning of justice. I didn't yet know the full depth of David's betrayal or the true size of the empire. He'd been hiding from me. But for the first time in months, I felt something other than fear or heartbreak. I felt direction. I felt purpose. The first spark of power. Revenge wouldn't be a tantrum. It would be a strategy. A slow, deliberate, beautifully calculated strategy. Once I stepped into this game, there was no going back. Every move had to be precise. Because one day, he would finally realize the woman he betrayed was not the woman he left behind. In the days that followed my discovery, life felt surreal, like I was walking through a museum of lies. The apartment we decorated together. The framed photos of smiles that no longer meant anything. Even the lingering scent of his cologne mocked me every time I entered a room. At night, I lay awake replaying everything, every laugh, every touch, every lie disguised as love. I searched for the moment I lost him, but the truth was darker. He had been living a parallel life long before I ever suspected a thing. Anger simmered in me, but anger alone wasn't enough. Emotional reactions wreck lives. Calculated ones change outcomes. So I chose clarity over chaos. I started small. I combed through old emails and bank statements. I reviewed business trip receipts. I mapped out his travel patterns and flagged unusual withdrawals, triangulating every inconsistency he thought I would never notice. The deeper I went, the more horrifying the picture became. This wasn't just infidelity. This was financial deception on a scale I never imagined. Hidden investment accounts, unreported partnerships, shell companies tied to offshore holdings, assets that had mysteriously shifted names. And every night when he slept beside me like nothing had changed, I cataloged it all quietly, carefully, ruthlessly. He hadn't just cheated on me. He hadn't underestimated me. He never imagined the woman he thought was naive would become the one dissecting his entire empire. I built a covert team. I knew I couldn't do this alone, but trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. So I chose experts I respected, not friends, not family, not anyone who could slip. A lawyer skilled in financial divorces, a forensic accountant with a talent for tracking hidden funds, a cybersecurity consultant who specialized in digital footprints. Every communication was coded, indirect, and always from a burner phone. I made sure my involvement was untraceable. If David even sensed I was watching him, he'd lock down everything instantly. The secrecy was both terrifying and electrifying. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to his lies. I was maneuvering around them. As the weeks passed, I noticed subtle shifts around me. David grew more distracted, more protective of his devices, more nervous when his phone buzzed. He had no idea the walls were closing in because I was the one building them. My parents began watching him more carefully too, picking up on the tension he couldn't hide. My siblings avoided him, sensing something they couldn't name. Even casual acquaintances contributed to my investigation without realizing it. A cousin mentioned a business partner I'd never heard of. A friend slipped up about a romantic trip David took last month, one he never told me about. A coworker of his mistakenly referred to a property investment meeting I wasn't supposed to know existed. Each revelation was another thread I added to the web, tightening the plan with every detail. But with every new piece of information, the danger also grew. One mistake, one slip, and I could lose everything. Not just financially, but my advantage, my control, my moral ground. And yet, for the first time since my world shattered, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I was winning. With every secret I uncovered, the danger sharpened. David was clever, too clever for accidents or sloppy mistakes, but I was relentless, and now I was no longer reacting to his lies. I was orchestrating something far bigger. I wasn't just trying to survive him. I was preparing to outsmart him entirely. I began using tactics I never believed I was capable of. I watched his behavior, tested his reactions, fed him bits of misleading information just to see which direction he ran. Every lie I told was tiny, precise, and purposeful. Did it weigh on me? Yes. Did it stop me? Not for a second. Because this wasn't cruelty. This was survival. This was justice. The woman who cried silently in our bedroom was gone forever. What remained was a force he could have never predicted. Weeks of tracking, mapping, and quiet surveillance finally revealed the edges of his hidden empire. Once I saw the full picture: offshore accounts, secret contracts, shady partnerships, shell companies, I felt an icy calm settle into my bones. I knew what to do, where to strike, how to break him without lifting a finger. I traced every account he hid from me, uncovered property deeds he purchased under aliases, retrieved emails he thought he had deleted, and documented every lie with dates, screenshots, evidence that no lawyer could dispute. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was reclamation. This was taking back the life he tried to erase me from. I had the map. I had the team. And now I had the fire. The next moves would be irreversible. In the quiet moments, I questioned myself, wondering if becoming this strategic, this cold, made me like him. But every time doubt crept in, I reminded myself he chose this path. I was choosing to survive it. I wasn't preparing for a confrontation. I was preparing for domination. Every domino had to fall in the exact order. Every move had to feel accidental, natural, invisible. And when the collapse began, it would be too late for him to escape. The game had started. And I wasn't just playing. I was winning. The morning I chose to act, I felt a calm confidence I hadn't felt in months. My lawyer met me in a discreet office downtown, no names on the door, number records, no connections to David. We filed preliminary papers securing my legal claim to joint assets, quietly, cleanly, strategically. My financial advisor froze certain accounts under temporary protection. The forensic accountant tracked hidden transfers and prepared legal documentation. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was control. And the best part? He had no idea. He walked into our home every evening smiling at the wife he believed was still broken. He had no clue that the foundation of his empire was slipping right out from under him. My first confrontation wasn't with raised voices or tears. It was a message. A carefully worded line that hinted I knew something, but not everything. Just enough to shake him. His reaction was immediate. His voice cracked. His hands trembled. But he hid it with a forced calm. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't know how much I knew. Family members who had always adored him suddenly became inquisitive. They asked small questions about his business, his accounts, his projects, innocent on the surface. But to him, they sounded like pressure points. Even better, they unknowingly revealed more secrets he had tried to hide. When the confrontation finally happened, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I simply laid out the truth in cold, measured statements. Emails, bank transfers, properties, lies, timelines, piece by piece, fact by fact, until denial became impossible. His face drained of color. How did you? I watched, I said calmly. I learned, and then I waited. Every secret you buried is in my hands now. The next steps? They're mine to decide. For the first time, he realized the weight of his actions, not just emotionally, but financially. The days that followed were a strategic storm. Joint properties were secured in my name. Hidden accounts were exposed. Legal loopholes he relied on were closed. Contracts he thought favored him suddenly favored me. He tried to fight back, of course he did. But every tactic he attempted was something I had already anticipated. Every move only tightened the trap I built. The man who thought he was untouchable was now cornered by the woman he underestimated most. When a final reveal came, when he finally saw the full scope of my plan, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was quiet, clean, final. He stood in our once shared home, realizing the life he built wouldn't crumble because I destroyed it, but because he handed me the weapons himself. Your first mistake, I told him softly, was thinking I was weak. Your last was giving me reasons to prove you wrong. And that was it. He was finished. The money he stole became mine. The properties he hid were exposed. The empire he built while betraying me slowly shifted into my hands. But victory was strange. Triumphant, yes, but heavy. Because the woman who once lived here, the one who trusted, who believed, who loved, was gone. I had won, but the scars of betrayal never leave quietly. In this moment, I realized that revenge isn't about cruelty, it's about reclamation. It's about rising from betrayal with a spine of steel and refusing to be broken ever again. Even as I celebrated my victory, a quiet unease settled beneath the triumph. Family whispers, financial scrutiny, unresolved tensions, all of it hinted at one truth. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of a new battlefield. I had claimed my empire, but shadows of the past never fully disappear. They wait, silently, patiently, for the next move. The dust had barely settled when I noticed everything changing around me. Family members who once ignored me now watched closely, some with admiration, others with envy. My parents offered cautious pride, but their eyes warned me of storms still forming. My siblings tested boundaries, unsure whether to fear me or follow me. The home I had reclaimed felt different now. Rooms once filled with love and laughter now echoed with a powerful silence. Victory was mine, yes, but it tasted strangely hollow. I had taken everything. I deserved and more, but the price of power wasn't small. The battlefield was won, but the war of trust was far from settled. Just when I thought the worst was behind me, complications emerged. A distant business partner called, accusing David of discrepancies in his dealings, discrepancies that could now implicate me. Hidden truths I hadn't uncovered began resurfacing, tangled in relationships far beyond our marriage. Friends whispered confessions of things David had done, things I had never known. Even my allies grew cautious, telling me certain legal maneuvers might attract unwanted attention. With every revelation, the picture grew darker. The deeper I delved, the more I realized the past never truly dies. Each secret carried consequences far beyond what I planned. Enemies who once hid behind David now watched me instead. Opportunists smelled power. And betrayal, it seemed, was a legacy that didn't die easily. Late at night, the silence became heavier. I replayed every lie, every confrontation, every risk. Had I gone too far? Had revenge reshaped me into someone I didn't recognize? Loneliness crept in like a quiet intruder. Even in triumph, my victories were cold companions. Yet beneath that darkness, a strange strength grew. My instincts sharpened. My patience deepened. My belief in myself transformed. I had survived betrayal, and survival demands evolution. Innocence was gone, but wisdom had taken its place. Eventually, the legal battles concluded. Assets secured, hidden accounts revealed. The empire David once ruled alone was now split in some ways. Fully mine. I invested wisely. I built quietly. I crafted a life that finally reflected my vision, not his. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because of the money, but because I finally understood my own worth. I didn't just reclaim wealth, I reclaimed myself. And that victory was more powerful than anything he stole. Even as I built my new life, signs of danger returned. Anonymous calls, unexpected emails, family members asking too many questions. Someone checking into past business deals that should have been buried. It was subtle, silent, too careful to dismiss. Victory had been mine, but shadows never truly fade. They wait, for the moment you stop watching. I refuse to be blindsided again. Not after everything I'd endured. Not after everything I'd learned. I sat in my new office, city lights glittering beneath me like 1,000 silent witnesses. Every betrayal, every secret, every morally complex decision had shaped me into this moment. Life doesn't hand you justice. You take it. Survival belongs to those willing to walk through the gray. I had walked through darkness and emerged stronger. But I also knew this. The story wasn't over. The past would return. New enemies would rise. New betrayals would unfold. And when they did, I would be ready, because I was no longer the woman David betrayed. I was the woman he never thought I could become. A strategist, a survivor, a force. The game is far from over, and I'm prepared for whatever comes next.